Hello, basketball fans across the country and around the world, really.
Around the world. We're global.
Since we're on YouTube.
Global icons.
Global icons. Our influence is noted here. At ABC 10, at least, because we're your sports department. Lena Washington, Sean Cunningham. We are going into, I guess, what is the third week of the NBA playoffs?
It's getting long.
Getting long. Going into the second round, we had Game 2 of the Warriors and Rockets series last night in Oakland. It was.
I'm still tired.
Yeah, we're still both
out.
waking up. We both made the trip, but the Warriors made quick work of the Rockets. A wire-to-wire win, 115-109. Kevin Durant with 29 points, 5 rebounds. But going into the game, there was a lot of talk about officiating.
Mm-hmm.
They fielded between Steve Kerr, Mike D'Antoni, and all the other stars after the game. A lot of questions about the officiating. That was the talk, of course, after Game 1.
Oh, and really because of the Rockets, at the Rockets' request. I mean,
right.
Mike D'Antoni, the Rockets coach, comes out after Game 1 and says, "Oh, this is a joke. We got to do something about this." Blah blah blah. And then the organization allegedly leaks to our good friend Sam Amick about this whole, all these analytics, all these numbers, which the Warriors are known
dive.
for. Yeah, I mean Daryl Morey and the Rockets GM and their staff, they're known for analytics. They're known for being on the forefront of things like this. And hey, every team secretly gets the per 48 report for a game to say when officials were right and wrong. The league only publicly releases the last 2 minutes of a game report.
Right.
So everyone goes back there and says, oh, this was a right call, this was a wrong call. You're kind of holding your officials accountable for that, but at the same time, it's only for those last 2 minutes.
Right.
And for the entire 48, only your staff is able to see that. And what they're claiming is that there's a lot of errors within the 48, in the way it's as the way it's officiated for their star James Harden, and specifically against the Golden State Warriors, dating back to last year's playoff series in Game 6 and 7. So you cry a little bit. This comes out, and then going into Game 2, where you've got two officials like Scott Foster and Ed Malloy, who are known to be a little carefree with their whistle, and you're trying to set a tone or a narrative going into that game. I don't know if it worked. I think you saw both teams kind of muzzle up themselves and not complain as much. But the one lasting image aside from James Harden getting poked in the eyes, which was a no call, by the way, that was not a foul called in that play. He did get poked in the eyes by Draymond Green, and that becomes kind of a storyline heading into Game 3.
Yep.
But more so is the fact that when James Harden got fouled on his three-point attempt by Kevin Durant, which was a legit foul, Chris Paul jumping up and down demonstratively in a celebratory fashion to say it worked in essence, because that's exactly what what the Rockets were complaining about, was the landing space where James Harden shoots his threes.
Right.
The
Nowhere
defender
to plant
comes
his
in.
feet.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, the coaches didn't want to talk about officiating anymore. And after the game, on both sides, they said it was a pretty well-officiated game.
Yeah.
Of course, for the Rockets, not the outcome they wanted. They're going back home to Houston, down 2-0 against the defending champions, who are vying for their third straight title, and their last in Oakland at Oracle Arena. So let's take you inside the locker room, or I guess the press conference room.
We'll start in the locker room, the Warriors locker room.
The Warriors locker room with Steph Curry, and James Harden wasn't the only guy who was injured in last night's game, so let's hear what happened to Steph after he dislocated his finger in the first quarter of last night's Game 2.
With the days before Game 3 on Saturday, what's Rick told you as far as what the treatment the next few days will be?
He said play as much golf as you can. Really get that swing speed going. Test that that left hand as much as you can in the next 4 days, and everything should be fine. I think the pressure's on us to go down and continue to build momentum. We did what we were supposed to do here, and we protected our home court, which is something that we haven't done well in the past. And if we can go down Game 3, take their best punch, play like we did tonight on the defensive end, take care of the basketball. I like where we're at. So they're going to come out, competing, playing desperate. We have to match that energy from the start. We've done a good job of that in the past, but against them, going back to Houston 2-0 and understand what they play like in that building, we got to be ready for it.
Get ready for Game 3. You know what I mean? Like, we going back home, and we understand that's all we need to worry about right now is Game 3. So get some rest, get back home, and get in front of our crowd and get out there and play Game 3.
Yeah, most definitely want to take care of home, especially after how last series went, losing 2 of them at home. So I think we're just a little bit more focused to finish games, no matter if we were up 15 and they still cut it down. And I think I love how we stayed poised through it all. You know, I think we only was able to do that because of what we went through in the first series. And, you know, so glad that we was able to finish it out at home, but we know these guys are even more dangerous at their crib. So us on the road, they're even more dangerous.
It's always what you want to do. You know, when you've got home court, if you can get the first two, it puts you in good shape. But you know, with the awareness that you know, you're just getting started. You know, nothing has happened yet. So we got to go down to Houston and be ready to play because we know how good they are. We know how hard they're going to play.
All right, so Game 3 of the Rockets-Warriors series coming to ABC 10 right here on Saturday at 5:30, and we'll have a post-game show for you after that. But are you anticipating the Rockets pulling out a bounce-back win in their first game back home?
Yeah, I'm definitely anticipating a different performance from James Harden.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, despite the points he's put up, I still don't think we've seen that game from him yet.
Right.
I do think they play well on their home floor. I do think they're going to be amplified for this game. But to say going into Game 3, can they win essentially 4 or 5 against the Warriors? Yeah. And I just don't see that.
Yeah.
That'll be a tough task. But yeah, and I think the Warriors. Let's not mistake. I mean, the Warriors, for as great as they are, they've shown the ability to let their foot off the gas a little bit. And against a team like this that just lives and dies by the 3-point shot, I think that can be a little bit dangerous. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, look, the Warriors realized they took care of business. I think now it's. I mean, look, the old cliche. I mean, a series doesn't start until home team loses on their home floor. So,
right.
To that end, though, I don't think that the Rockets are in a position where they're going to go in there and beat the Warriors in these 2 home games. But more specifically, as you look beyond this, you got to win 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think I don't know if. I think they need to win Game 3 if they want to even stay alive. If they lose Game 3 and win Game 4,
to steal momentum for
right.
sure. And then how does Harden come out of that with his eyes and Steph with the finger?
Right.
It remains to be seen. They both obviously
literally.
They came out of the game briefly. James Harden was a little bit longer, but both of them continued to play and continue to play at a high level. It's just when are we going to see that game from James Harden? I haven't seen that yet. And maybe he just needs some home cooking.
Right, yeah. And as Draymond even mentioned, and he talked about what he said to James, well, the kind of, Draymond elaborated a little bit more, but it was more of like, hey, you good? I'm good. James was obviously not good. I mean, his eyes were bloodshot on both sides. You can see it close up at the press conference in a minute when we show you what he had to say. But he was down on the floor for a while before he even got up, and then he goes to the locker room. But to play, again, at that high level without your vision, I mean, that's really detrimental. Yeah. Again, they have 3 days to kind of recover, and reports are saying that he went straight to the doctor after the plane got to Houston. It's a left eye contusion, and he has a cut under his lid.
I mean, Mike D'Antoni said he was bleeding from the eye.
Yeah.
Which, ow.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're not supposed to do that.
And I know there's some cynics out there that go, oh, James is a drama queen. He is. Yes, he is.
Sure.
He is. And he may have played it up a little bit because, again, there was no foul call on this play. And here we are coming out of game. This is in the first few minutes of the first quarter. So it's really kind of setting a tone for that game 2 already.
Sure.
So it might have been a little bit demonstrative, but at the same time, I mean, you're going to see his eyes here close up in a second. Yeah. They look bad.
Look, I will say that I was kind of dealing with something with the light. When your eyes are sensitive to light,
mine are. Yeah.
It's really tough. And to play under those lights in that arena with 18,000 people screaming their heads off, and you're trying to focus and lead your team, that's going to be a challenge. But again, he has a couple days to rest up. We'll see if his vision gets a little better. But a quick note on Steph. The x-rays did come back negative for him, so it's just going to be taping it up.
His finger still looked like this, though.
It's bending in a way that it should not bend, and things are popping out of places. But James Harden, of course, for the Rockets and their fans, no pun intended, but they're going to keep an eye out on him, and let's take a listen to what he had to say after last night's game 2.
I mean, I can barely see, but just try to go out there and do what I can to help my teammates.
Are you concerned about it being a problem going forward?
I don't know. It's pretty blurry right now, so hopefully it gets better day by day.
Shelley Smith from ESPN. James, we can tell the lights are bothering your eyes. Did you have trouble with your vision on the court?
Can't see nothing.
You couldn't see anything?
Barely could see.
I'm sorry, what?
I barely could see.
I can't hear you.
Got you good.
Barely can see.
Oh, barely could see.
Yeah.
Were you able to get any relief from drops or anything else that they might
Yeah,
have
they
given
put a
you?
couple drops,
Man, he whooped out over here. He looked like Thriller.
couple drops to help it, numb it a little bit. But I mean, just all the lights was blurry. Yeah.
And they can't put more drops in because it might damage the tissue. Is that right?
Correct.
Dang.
You
a
know,
doctor,
you
too.
know everything over there.
Yeah. I've had it happen.
Oh yeah.
Not playing basketball,
We
obviously.
found out you was hooping, Shelly.
Oh, well, you know.
All right.
And sleeping is really tough, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
James, Draymond said that he went over to you after the injury to check on you. He said this is not about hurting somebody out there. It's way bigger than that. That when you get hurt, it's something that stays with you for a while. Can you talk about what he said to you and what your thoughts about what Draymond did in that situation?
I mean, what you want me to say? You asked me if I was all right. I was like, yeah.
All right, so there you go, a close-up look at what James was dealing with.
It's going to be in a Halloween costume next year, I think.
Yeah, Chris Paul said it's Thriller. I mean, it's Michael Jackson music video
Shelly
status.
Smith was the real star of that press conference, though.
That exchange was great.
Unbelievable. She's great.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she's a wealth of knowledge, so
She is.
good luck sleeping, James.
Yeah. Good luck with that. See you in Game 3.
Yes. Again, Game 3 right here on ABC 10, Saturday at 5:30. But yeah, it was a pretty exciting atmosphere there, and it was rocking. It was loud. Pre-game, things were pretty run-of-the-mill, I guess you would say. But
Yeah. To go back to that for a minute, though, I mean, what Draymond Green was saying, we didn't play the audio there,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously James was saying that, man, no ill will, no intention, didn't want to, this guy's hurt, it's bigger than basketball. And Harden's response is, well, okay. And,
Right.
And look, I mean, that's what he's supposed to say. I think there's some people that are going, oh, this is going to really kind of stir some momentum up going into Game 3, this saltiness between Draymond and James Harden. I don't think that's going to be the case necessarily, but what do you want James Harden to say? I mean, he's the one suffering through it. And it's like, yeah, he came up and said blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, great.
Right. I mean, it was good to have Draymond kind of elaborate, and you can find the full interviews on our website and on our YouTube channel, ABC 10. We have a full playlist with the NBA playoffs, along with our Kings coverage as well. But Draymond said, it sticks with you. It's something he's going to have to live with. And I'm sure that's something that, as I've heard other players say, they don't want to live with that guilt of injuring another player or causing another player to be hurt, taken out of a series or taken out of a game or anything like that. So, granted, it's not to the scale of of that, but it's still something that.
But at least last night too, that was
mutual respect.
At that point last night, they didn't know that this might be something that could continue to linger. He hadn't met with a doctor yet.
Right.
He did come back out and play, to his credit. But yeah, Draymond's probably feeling appropriately bad. But at the same time, it's like, hey,
it's basketball.
It's basketball. Here we go.
Yeah. And Draymond said he's happy that the whistles weren't blown as much. They were able to be physical. They called fouls when they needed to get foul calls, and it was about basketball last night.
It was, and both sides really complimented the officiating. Said that the officials were great, and really, you're not going to come out and and kill the officials in 2 straight games and get that fine.
Right.
It's funny when you can say how great the officials were and you don't get fined. I mean, just talking about the officials usually renders a fine, especially when in a negative way.
When it's critical.
When you compliment them.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Steve Kerr said the best compliment is we didn't notice them. So can definitely echo that. But elsewhere throughout the association, we got a Game 2 coming up in Denver tonight. Portland and the Nuggets, the Trailblazers in the Mile High City, down 1-0 against the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic is just balling out.
Sure is. They have no answer for him. And as Cantor got into foul trouble, wasn't really. I mean, his shoulder started to hurt. Portland with no Yusuf Nurkic. I mean, they're in trouble to try to stop the Joker. But I will say, in watching that Game 1, the thing that stood out to me was what is Portland doing defensively?
Not enough, clearly. If you're letting the guy eat like that down the post.
you can see why. I mean, Denver was 3-1 in the regular season. I think you got to see a different effort from Dame and CJ in Game 2. But I mean, the one guy I was really pinpointing, because I mean, you've got Dame and Murray, Jamal Murray with Denver, and Lillard was having the hardest time keeping up with Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. I thought Damian Lillard would give him. I mean, this is Jamal Murray. This is his first cup of tea in the playoffs.
Right.
Damian Lillard has been here before. Granted, they haven't gone very far, but Murray was
You've been here before,
right by him. I thought actually the best player and I know I'm a Duke fan, but Rodney Hood was fantastic for Portland. If he can duplicate that and they can get what Portland's known for with their backcourt going, I think that they can stand a chance, but they just look like they didn't belong in game 1.
Sure, yeah. And Rodney Hood has a way of just coming up and making his presence felt in the postseason when it's mattered most.
Yeah,
so good for him. But yeah, we have a couple Eastern Conference games. Game 4 of the Philadelphia-Toronto series coming up on Sunday, but of course Game 3 coming up on Thursday. Game 4 is going to be here on ABC 10 at 12:30. Philadelphia and Toronto, they are 1-1. Milwaukee and Boston 1-1. The Bucks really responded in a big way after that embarrassment in Milwaukee in Game 1.
And the Celtics looked like once they got down 15 points, they're like, all right, on to Game 3.
Yeah.
We already stole home court.
Pivot to Game 3.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the way I expected. I wanted to see a little more fight from Boston, but I honestly thought that the way once they stole Game 1 and took the home court, they're going to rely on that. And that was so huge, especially for that series. And again, it's kind of like that. Who's been there before? You see the experience of Boston, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I picked them to go farther into the Eastern Conference Finals than I did with Milwaukee, because of the fact that experience. And I feel like they can flip a switch, and even the stuff that people, they're harping upon, they don't look like this together team, and Kyrie's doing all this. I think that's nonsense. I think they've actually played pretty well in the East, and I think they're going to continue to do so. Game 2 notwithstanding.
Right,
so.
yeah. I mean, and the good thing for them is that all the chatter of the discord and the tension in the locker room happened well enough before the playoffs that I think that they were able to kind of get whatever kind of animosity there might have been lingering out of the way, and now they're turning their focus to the task at hand, which is getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and then the NBA Finals starting on May 30th. Right here on ABC 10.
Can't wait.
We'll see if the Warriors are there. If they are,
the playoffs is a whole other season.
It is. It really is. And like
lasts forever.
It lasts forever, but I'm not mad about it because once mid-June hits and we ain't got nothing to talk about, it's going to be a sad day. We'll be looking ahead to the California Classic, Summer League draft, everything like that, but there's nothing like the playoffs and postseason atmosphere. That was actually my first playoff game, I think, since maybe the Suns were relevant 15
so last
years
night at
ago.
Oracle, the first night, that was your first playoff game.
That was my first playoff game at Oracle. Pretty amazing. I mean, wouldn't expect anything less. I will say, they're probably due for an upgrade in their arena because walking around is,
It's the final year of that.
It's final year
They've
of that.
renovated it several times. I think it's still a fantastic arena for people who haven't been there. It's one of those arenas where everything echoes, kind of how Arco Arena was. It's no wonder why that place is one of the loudest venues in sports. I think Kings fans remember the way Arco was. And, it's the final year at Oracle. It's going to be tough when you see the Warriors move across the bay. I don't know if it'll have that same feel.
Right.
I'm sure it will, but it's going to be a different vibe in there, I believe.
Sure, different vibe.
Better have a lot of money.
Yeah, for those fans, they can bring the same energy.
You already had to have a lot of money going to Oakland, especially with this championship team. But, their clientele has certainly changed.
Definitely. I don't know what to – I don't even know if I would be able to, in my wildest dreams, afford a courtside ticket to Chase Center.
Well, gosh, courtside anywhere, that's tough. But just lower level, you'd be happy in the lower level.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I like when,
but the dream is to have the feet on the court, triple referee status.
Their team president Rick Welts, Sacramento, lives here in Sacramento, and he was asked about the suites at Chase Center, and they said one of the people said, "Well, if you have to ask about how much the suites are at Chase Center, you probably can't afford it."
Yeah, word to the wise. But we are looking forward to seeing what that brand new stadium looks like in San Francisco, but they're hoping to come back to Oakland with the series in check, in the bag after Game 3 and Game 4, heading to Houston this weekend, next week, and we will keep you updated on the latest, of course, in the Western Conference as we follow the Warriors in their pursuit of a third straight championship and the NBA playoffs as they continue right here on ABC 10. And you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, tweet us your questions, your thoughts, concerns, playoff related, Kings related. Of course, there was a lot of talk about the Luke Walton investigation over recent weeks. We don't have an update. We will for sure keep you updated on our website. But in the meantime, until next Wednesday, Sean Cunningham, at Sean Cunningham, Lena Washington, L Washington TV. We'll see you back here next Wednesday for some NBA playoffs chat.
Bye.